Hello mate, and welcome to another exciting episode of our Unity VN series. So in our last episode, we created some code which allowed us to add an image with a transition, with a fade-in effect, which is fine, but what we will notice is that this image layer now has a prefab in it. If we continue to add images to our scene, then very quickly this canvas is going to fill up with images one on top of the other. Which is fine for a short period of time, but sooner or later things are going to start getting a bit laggy because we're just going to have thousands of images here. So we need to figure out a way of removing those images so that we don't overfill this. But we also need to be able to do it in such a way that when we clear the screen, if we replace what's on the screen with an image, we don't get a strange transition. And we'll see more about what that's all about a little bit further in. So what we need to do is come back into our code for our input decoder, and we need to create another method. Now we've already got a clear screen method which currently doesn't contain anything, and that is because we removed the background image reference, which we can do for this one because we no longer need it. Hence why it's commented out, and we'll just remove those two lines there, and then we're going to remove this one as well, and we're going to replace this. What we need to do for the simple clear screen command is run through our transforms on our canvas and delete everything. So for transform, T in transform, canvas transform, do apologize, getting my models worded up there. Now we need to declare, because this is not a mono behavior class, we need to tell Unity that this is in fact a mono behavior command that we're going to use. Destroy t.gameObject, and that like that. So that's going to go through all of the objects within our canvas, the canvas that we defined, which is our image layers canvas. Now the last thing we need to do is we need to set our interface canvas or interface elements dot set active to false, because we want our clear screen to hide our interface as well as getting rid of all of the images. So that's that. Now if we go into our testing script, sorry, I stand corrected, our code up here, what we've got is if args equals clear screen, then we call that method. Great. So what we want to do now is we need to create another method, a new method, which does a kind of combination of the two of these two things. We want it to show an image, but we also want to delete all of the images that show underneath it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this chunk of code here, and then I'm going to create a new method, and we'll call this, we'll go with public static void, and we'll call this one screen clear as opposed to clear screen, and we're going to take in a string, call it string to pass, because that's the one that we're using, that's the one we've been using all along. So now I should be able to paste most of this stuff in there. Right, image to show is going to be null. Fade effect is currently set to false, and we've got our two regular expressions. Now we need to change the command that we're receiving in here to say screen instead of show, like that. And we need to get rid of this garbage because that's didn't mean to copy that bit into there. So we'll get rid of that, and we'll get rid of this, and then what I'll do is I'll select all of that and I'll hit Shift Tab, and that'll bring our indentation back into line. Marvelous. Okay, so we're also checking whether or not either of these two statements are correct, and if we say image to if alt matches, i.e. if this statement, if the one with a transition is indeed called for, then we set fade effect to true just like we did before, and we also set the image to show as the image file name just as we did before. We also check if there is no transition. If the basic screen statement is correct, then all we do is we set image to show to be the image file name. We do not set fade effect to be true because we don't want it to be true. Okay. We also call for GameObject picture instance to be instantiated. We're creating a new layer. We are setting the parents to be the canvas transform. We are, if the fade effect is indeed true, then we are calling for the fade effect. We're setting the image to color white, and we are loading the sprite into our image layer. Exactly the same as our show image stuff. Nice and simple, yeah? Now, what we could do if we really wanted to, is actually set all of that code into a single method. The only problem is that our regular expressions are different for each one. So for the time being, we're gonna leave that the same. We could mess around with sorting that out into a singular method later on, but for now, it's fine. We now need to add some new code to this method. So what we need to do is a for each transform. Well, I'm going to spell transform correctly. Transform t in canvas dot transform. Same as we did before in our clear screen layer. Now, the difference this time is, rather than just going through the whole lot and deleting all of them, what we need to do is we need to check whether or not the transform, i.e. the item that we're about to delete, is the one that we've just added. And if it is, then we're not going to do anything. So we're going to say if child, or sorry, t, child, if t is not equal to, in this case it is picture instance dot transform. So if it's not the one we've just added, then we are, hello, I've seemed to have added some random new characters there. So we'll get rid of that bad boy. Come here and we'll just, there we go. Better. Now we can just get rid of that space there and jobs are good. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to say mono behavior dot destroy t.game object, but this time we're going to put a time delay on it. We want it to delete it after about, well, I'm putting 3 seconds. What you could do is tie the time up to how long the transition time is for the game object in our image instance. If you remember, we have a float which is the time delay on our transition. But I'm just going to set it to 3 seconds because I know that all of my transitions are going to be 1 second. Nice and easy. And then we're going to say interface, where is it? In interface elements dot set active false, because when we call the clear screen or the screen clear command, we want our screen to be completely cleared. Now we need to add our semicolon back in there. There we go. That should remove any errors in our code. And that is basically good to go. So now all we need to do is we need to, I'm going to copy the name of this method just to be simple. There we go. And now we're going to say if open args 0 equals screen. If we use the screen command, then we're going to screen clear string to pass. Job done. Okay, so now we should have no trouble whatsoever. So if we come into our code here, in fact, no, before we do that, we're going to jump into our testing script. Currently, we're only doing the show image once. So I'm going to add 3 more copies of that, and let's add a space in between each one so that we can see them. Save that, and now when I run our code, what we should see is in our image layers, we now have 4 copies of the image, which we don't want. So let's just get rid of that. Now if we come back into our code, if I now change the last command to screen instead, save it, and run it again, once we call our setup there, you can see the UI elements has indeed been hidden, and after 3 seconds all of our extra layers, all of our extra image layers have indeed disappeared. So that is basically a successful bit of coding, guys. Nice and easy, a really simple way of adding the transition. Another thing that I will say is if you're not keen on the blue background, which I know that a lot of people aren't, they want nice and black, select your main camera in the scene, and where it says backgrounds, just take hold of that and drag it to whatever color you want it to be, and then remember to save your project, and then that will work just fine. So now if we run it, what you'll see is instead of the blue background, we now have a black one, and then again after 3 seconds all of our extra image layers disappear and our UI elements have indeed been hidden. But if I press the H key, as you can see, I can still toggle them on and off as intended. Hope you found that useful, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for watching. I genuinely appreciate you spending your time with me. I know there are other coding teachers that you could be spending your time with. Either way, I'll see you in the next one. But until then, you take damn good care of yourselves, alright? Bye-bye.